you'd hate for something to happen and, your family couldn't join you. Obviously everyone's health and safety is the priority right now. And that's been said from everyone, whether that's through the league or the PA, but, we hope somehow they could join us, but if not, this is a sacrifice that, no one really saw coming, and it's an opportunity to go compete for a Stanley Cup. And you hope, everything will be good at home, and, God forbid something were to happen, but, the Bruins have been unbelievable in terms of making sure that, everyone, not just players, but families too, are well accounted for medically. And, you have full faith in them and the systems in place that, heaven forbid something did happen, that, they would be taken care of.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Morsey. We'll take our next question from Connor Ryan. Connor, go ahead.
Hey, John. Thanks for doing this. Hope all is well. I know there's already pretty strict protocols put in place in regards to testing, temperature checks, and all that stuff. What has that environment and atmosphere kind of been like at the rink so far? And how long do you think it's going to take a player to kind of get adjusted to kind of a completely different environment over the next couple of months?
Hey, Connor, thanks for joining. It's different for sure, but that's the world we live in now. And, you could go blue in the face complaining about it, but at the end of the day, they have our best interests in mind. It's really about adjusting, and it's something we've talked about as a group. The teams that will have the most success will be, the most comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you don't let any of that distract you from the work that needs to be done. And, it's, again, for everyone's safety, you come in, you take your temperature, you do your testing, but then you go to work, you get on the ice, you go in the weight room, and it's just like, it was before. So there's certain, freckles here and there with the process, but you're learning them and you're adapting. And I guess that's really what it's all about with, COVID and the new world that we now live in.
Thanks, Morsey. We'll take our next question from Evan Marinovsky. Evan, go ahead.
John, thank you for doing this. I hope you and your family are doing well. I'm just curious into what's been different about your sort of nutrition plan during quarantine, and sort of what's been different about it and how's it been handled?
Hey, thanks, Evan. That's a great question. It's something, first of all, you're grateful that you can afford to have food and feed your family. That's, a lot of people are in tough shape, and just the ability to go to the grocery store and have, food for you and your family, it's something that, isn't lost on myself. But it is our job, and to be ready and to be prepared. And I think that nutrition plays a huge role in it, especially, before I was skating. I was really taking stock on what I was putting in my body and making sure I'm putting myself in the best possible position to come back and not have any issues. For me personally, I've done a lot of blood work in the past that has steered me away from certain foods that trigger inflammation responses. And, when I'm not skating, when I don't have, an aerobic or anaerobic load, I really try and stay away from carbohydrates and just really be disciplined in my approach. So that's kind of been my focus in regards to my eating throughout this.
Thanks, Morsey. Rich Thompson, if you're able to unmute your line, you can have the next question.
Hi, John. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Rich.
Great. Hey, thanks for taking the time. I'm just curious, what do you see as the individual and team challenges of rebooting an entire season and then rebooting it into the playoffs without even a tune-up?
I wish I could answer that, but it's unprecedented. Right now, it's just getting your feet back under you. We've all been off the ice for a really long time. I think, this break is probably longer than our entire off season last year. So I think everyone's disadvantaged to a degree, but at the end of the day, it's, mentally, how are you going to frame this? And I think as a group, we've talked, it's a chance for us to rest, to recover, and be ready for what comes next. You can't kind of get blinded by the trees in the forest here. We still have an amazing opportunity to go and compete for a Stanley Cup, and we're very grateful for that. Understanding some of the challenges in the real world that exists and how lucky we are to go out and play a game hopefully soon here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Morsey. Thanks, Rich. Next, we'll go to the always thoughtful Mike Loftus. Mike, go ahead.
Hello, John. How are you today?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Thoughtful, as Travis said. I'm kind of wondering, we don't know, did you leave the area during the quarantine, or did you stay here?
I just stayed here. I have 2 little kids, and going around the block is a trip for us. So we hunkered down here and just stayed put.
Okay, so there haven't been rinks open. Did you get a chance to skate before you went out on the weekend? And what did that feel like to be back on the ice again?
It felt. I didn't get a chance to skate anywhere. I was. The rinks were all closed, to my knowledge, and so unfortunately, I kind of have a little bit of practice with this, being off for an extended period of time following my surgery. So I tried to, lean on that experience. I guess temper your expectations the first time you're out, because it feels like you're wearing someone else's equipment. But then understanding that there's a process to returning and building back up to where you were, and being really focused on what I want to accomplish from a day-to-day standpoint, and feeling good about yourself with each and every skate. But I've been skating with Parr and Zdeno, and every day, the night before, we'll get together and devise a practice plan, the 3 of us, and talk about what we want out of each skate. And that focus has been really good for the 3 of us, and we've gotten a lot out of the skates so far.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Morsey. Just a reminder to media, if you no longer have a question, to please lower your hand. We'll take the next question from Mike Petralia. Mike, go ahead.
Thanks, Travis. I'll try to be as thoughtful as the thoughtful Mike Loftus. John, thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask you if you've even given any considerable thought to what it's going to be like actually playing a game again, playing against a live opponent, and how enjoyable that process would be. The reason I ask is you spend, preseason, you ramp up to games, and then throughout the season for 6 months, you're getting ready for the next opponent. You haven't had that for the last, several weeks. I'm just curious if you're looking forward to that as part of getting back to playing hockey.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you take this a step further and what that would represent for our society. Just a chance to give people a way to get away from whatever's happening in their lives. And we've touched on it already, how, amidst all this stuff, there's some very real world issues that, have really affected a lot of people. And, one thing that's really apparent is, just how being a Boston Bruin, how much that means, how much the Bruins mean to people all throughout New England, and to give them something to cheer for and root for would be a really special thing. And as a team, we've talked about that, and it's something that we are very grateful for that opportunity. And again, just to get back and be playing, we're all hockey players. There's nowhere we'd rather be, so we're really excited at that prospect.
Thanks, John.
Fluto, you're unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, John. I was wondering, maybe it's a little bit more muted now that you're back to practice and work. But I'm wondering if during this last couple of months, you've spent some time thinking about issues, whether it's hockey, work, unemployment, inequality, parenting maybe. I'm wondering if there are times when maybe after your girls have gone to sleep, or you have some free time to think about some real world issues. What's been going through your mind?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of levels to that. I think, with everything that's gone on, definitely reflected on that. As a Christian, I'm always examining myself and trying to be better and live a life of integrity. And I don't think that's anything that you arrive at. That's something that you strive at and you examine on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. And, Zdeno and Patrice showed just how special people they were with everything that they said and stood up for in the last couple of weeks. And again, there's things that are bigger than hockey, and a lot has been going on, and you try and understand how lucky you are to play a game for a living, but also understand the world that we live in and be the best person that you can and live a life of integrity. Those aren't things that you just arrive at, you strive for. And, personally every night, that's something my wife and I talk about. Raising two young daughters is, are we teaching them the right things? Are we making sure we're instilling the right values in them? And that's, with everything that's been going on, these conversations hold that much more weight every night, with my wife. So that's personally my answer to that.
Thanks, Morty. Emily Benjamin, you're up.
Hey, John. Hope you're hanging in there with two girls. I know how tough that can be. I just wanted to ask about sort of, as you build these plans with Barnes and Zdeno so far, and as you sort of get on the ice and see where you are you able to project out much, how you will feel, say, on July 10th when training camps are expected to open, and sort of how you move toward that smartly, slowly, without injury, that sort of thing? Are you able to project that out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Zdeno is great on that. And we lean on him because obviously he's been around for so long. You want to make sure, first of all, that you're not exposing yourself to a serious injury. And I think secondly, you're getting your feet and putting yourself in the best possible scenario to peak when the games start. But right now our focus has just been reintroduction to the ice and getting used to it. But also, our training staff, we have Ken Whittier, the assistant athletic trainer or assistant strength coach, who has put together a program for us, and we have full faith in him. And Kevin Neal, the head strength coach, that they'll get us in the right place come July 10th and onwards.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Morsey. We'll go next to Matt Castle. Matt, go ahead.
Hey, John. Hope you're doing well. I was just wondering what it's like to be back on the ice finally after all this time, and how much does the virus weigh in your mind while you're at the facilities or practicing?
Hey, Matt. It's awesome to be back on the ice. I think my wife loves just having me out of the house, if I'm being totally honest. And I think once you're there, you can't help but think about the virus with just the precautions that are in place for everyone's safety. But once you're on the ice, it's just like anything else. You're obviously missing the volume of the guys, but we've been very structured and disciplined in our approach, both in the weight room and on the ice, which has helped in terms of focus and attention when we're at the facility.
We'll go next to Logan Mullen. Logan, go ahead. Nope. Let's try Matt Porter instead. Matt, go ahead.
John, I'm curious what there's been talk of more microphones picking up what players are saying as the NHL tries to perhaps reimagine its presentation, at least, maybe on a temporary basis, if not, for the long term. Would you be okay with more microphones around to pick up what, you and the other guys are saying? What do you think that might look like or sound like?
I look at, and I'm not a big fan, or before this, of the UFC, but I saw the first fight with no fans, and you really got an appreciation for, you heard everything, and it made it, it added an element to watching it, and added an element of appreciation to the art of it all. And I think, as you alluded to, there's going to be a big part of this is the presentation on a media and entertainment level, to try and attract the most viewers we can. And I think it would be great for the sport if, there's increased microphones, cameras, what have you, that can deliver a better product to people who otherwise may have wanted to be in the stadium. And, obviously there's, you think of a guy like Marshy, he might win an Emmy with some of the stuff they might pick up with him, but, I'm all for it.
Thanks, Morsey. And we will take our last question from the inquisitive mind of Mike Loftus. Mike, go ahead.
John, I wanted to inquire. You've had a funny hockey season. You brought up. I mean, you had a rehab from the surgery. It was a challenge to be in the lineup at times. This is going to be, if everything comes off, an extension of a season or a completion of a season. But when you come back, do you look at this as maybe like, I've got another chance here?
Yeah, I think,
So
like,
you're going to the store?
as you alluded to,
Leaving?
and I've reflected on in these past however many months,
Okay.
this was a trying season
That
for
sounds
me,
good.
but
So you'll be back
I've been
in about
around
40
long
minutes?
enough, and I've really
If I'm
scratched
not
and clawed
here,
for everything in this
that
league.
door will be unlocked.
This is no different.
All right.
And, my gas tank's full now. I'm healthy, which is really all I can ask for. And I'm going to come to camp ready to compete. And, if however the team needs me, we've got a great chance to do something special. And I'm, all on board and want to be a part of that.